The lights of Istanbul glimmered like shattered stars reflected on the Bosphorus. Cameras flashed outside the luxurious hotel where Yaman was expected to appear, but tonight felt different. There was no red carpet, no wide smile, no playful wave to the reporters. Instead, there was silence, the kind that makes you hold your breath. It had been months since anyone had seen Can this vulnerable. He was supposed to be celebrating the success of his latest project, but something had changed. His eyes, usually fierce and confident, were now heavy, burdened, almost pleading. The man who once carried the weight of fame effortlessly now seemed like someone fighting a battle no one else could see. When he finally stepped into the lobby, flashes erupted like lightning. Questions flew through the air. Can? Is it true you and Sara are over? Can? Did you call Demet again? Can? What happened in Rome last week? He didn't answer. He simply looked up for a second, almost as if he was searching for something, or someone, among the chaos. Then he said quietly, "Not tonight." But the night wasn't done with him. Hours later, in a dimly lit restaurant near the Galata Tower, a friend who had known him since his early acting days watched as Can sat in silence, a glass of water untouched in front of him. "You can't keep pretending," the friend said. "Everyone sees it. You're not the same." Can let out a breath, one that trembled before it escaped his lips. "I tried, bro. I really tried. Sara deserved better than my half-hearted love. She's over." But Demet, his voice trailed off, caught between confession and regret. Outside, the hum of Istanbul life continued, laughter, music, horns, but inside that quiet restaurant, time seemed to freeze. "She was never just a co-star," he continued. "People think what we had was only chemistry on screen, but it wasn't. It was real. Too real. That's why I ran away. Because real things, they scare you when the world is watching." His friend nodded slowly. "And now?" Now, there was that silence again, but this time, it was heavier. Can's jaw tightened, his eyes fixed on the faint reflection in the window. "Now I'm tired of running. I'm done pretending I don't care. I'm fighting for her, even if it's too late." That was the confession Istanbul had been waiting for. The news broke within hours. Can Yaman's Istanbul confession, "Sara is over, I'm fighting for Demet." The headline spread like wildfire across Europe. Every talk show, every gossip magazine, every fan page lit up. But behind the headlines, there was a man sitting alone in his car, staring at the phone he still couldn't bring himself to call from. Because while the world celebrated his words, she hadn't heard them yet. The headlines had already exploded across social media by the time Can returned home. Every entertainment site, every tabloid, every fan account had plastered his words everywhere. "Sara is over. I'm fighting for Demet." But behind the blinding lights of public chaos, his apartment in Nisantasi was filled with only one thing: silence. He dropped his phone on the table and collapsed onto the couch. The city outside didn't care, it was alive, glowing, roaring. Yet for him, the world had shrunk into a single memory: her voice, her laughter, her tears that night she walked away. He stared at the phone again. Her name was still saved in his contacts. Demet. He had never deleted it. Not once. He had thought of calling her hundreds of times. During the lonely nights in Rome. During interviews when they asked about that chemistry. Even when Sara had tried to hold his hand at premieres, and all he could think about was another hand, smaller, warmer, trembling in his grasp during their first shoot together. Tonight, for the first time in years, he felt the weight of everything he hadn't said. He opened the chat. "Last message, good luck tomorrow. I know you'll kill it." That was years ago, sent before a big event, before the silence that followed, before everything collapsed under pride, distance, and misunderstandings. He started typing. "I saw your latest interview. You look happy. I'm proud of you." Then he erased it. "I made a mistake. I should have fought for us sooner." Erase. I never stopped thinking about you. Erase. The words never came out right. They never carried enough of what he felt, or too much. And so, the message remained empty, the call never made. He leaned back and let his eyes close. For a moment, he saw her again, not the version everyone knew, not the actress smiling on red carpets, but the real Demet, barefoot on set between scenes, laughing so hard that she'd cry, always insisting on doing one more take until it was perfect. That was the woman he had fallen for, the one who didn't need fame to shine. His phone buzzed suddenly, a message from his manager. "Can, the media's going crazy. We need to issue a statement. They're asking if it's true about Sara and Demet." He didn't reply. What was he supposed to say? That the confession everyone was quoting wasn't part of a press plan, but a truth he had carried too long? That he was tired of pretending? That the words had slipped out because they were real? He walked to the balcony. The cold air of December hit his face, and below him Istanbul stretched endlessly, bridges, lights, whispers of love stories written and broken across time. He whispered into the wind, "If you can hear me, Demet." I meant every word. Down below, a couple laughed, their shadows merging under a streetlight. And for the first time in years, Ken smiled, not because he was happy, but because the silence between them was no longer unbearable. She might not have heard the words yet, but deep down, he believed she had always known. When the news reached Demet Özdemir, it wasn't through a manager, a journalist, or even a fan message. It came from a whisper on set. She had just finished filming a long emotional scene for her new series, ironically, one about a woman torn between the past and the future. The director called cut, and the crew applauded, but Demet didn't smile. She rarely did anymore after shooting those heavy scenes. She would always take a few quiet minutes to come back to herself. As she walked toward her dressing room, her makeup artist looked at her phone, gasped, and muttered softly, "Oh my God." Demet turned. "What happened?" The girl hesitated, holding out her phone. "You need to see this." And there it was. World-shocked face screaming in fear, "Can Yaman's Istanbul confession, Sara is over, I'm fighting for Demet." For a moment, Demet just stared at the screen. Her expression didn't change, not at first. She read the words again, slower this time, as if her brain needed a few extra seconds to believe them. The room fell silent. Someone laughed nervously in the background, someone else whispered something about old flames, but Demet didn't hear them. All she could hear was her heartbeat, loud and uneven, like a storm trapped in her chest. She sat down slowly, her hands trembling. Memories flooded in. Nights of laughter, mornings of silence, the way his eyes would find hers even when cameras weren't rolling. The connection that had never really ended, only paused. For years, she had convinced herself that time would heal everything. That distance was protection. That silence was strength. But now, all those defenses cracked with one headline. Her assistant knocked on the door, breaking her trance. "Demet, the producers want to know if you'll make a statement. Everyone's calling." She shook her head. "No statement." "But, no statement," she repeated, her voice calm but firm. Then softer, almost to herself, "Not yet." She needed time. She needed air. She needed to understand what had really happened in Istanbul that night, what he truly meant by fighting for her. Later that evening, as she drove home through the glowing chaos of the city, the radio was buzzing with commentary. Talk show hosts analyzed every word, every gesture. One journalist said, "It's clear he still loves her. You can see it in his eyes." Another added, "Maybe it's too late." Demet turned off the radio. Her reflection in the window stared back, tired, beautiful, haunted. She remembered their last night together, not the public version the press imagined, but the real one, the argument that wasn't really about work, or schedules, or distance. It was about fear. About two people terrified of losing themselves in something too powerful to control. And now, after all these years, those same emotions had come back, raw, uninvited, unstoppable. When she finally got home, she poured a glass of water, set it on the counter, and stared at her phone. The world was waiting for her reaction. Fans were tagging her, the media was begging for a quote. But her thumb hovered over just one name. Can. The same name she had refused to touch for so long. She whispered into the quiet apartment, "You had to say it now, didn't you?" Her voice broke halfway through. Then she smiled, not out of joy, but because the universe, once again, had found its cruel sense of timing. Outside, Istanbul was alive with lights and rumors. Inside, two souls who had spent years avoiding each other were suddenly connected again, not by a call, not by a message, but by truth. And somewhere across the city, Yaman was staring at his phone, waiting for a notification that never came. It happened when neither of them expected it. Or maybe when fate decided it was time. 3 days had passed since the confession shook the world. For Can, those days felt like an eternity. He hadn't left his house, hadn't answered calls, hadn't posted anything. Every time he opened social media, he saw her face. Every time he turned on the TV, he heard his own voice echoing back at him. "I'm fighting for Demet." It was both a truth and a wound. Demet, on the other hand, had tried to bury herself in work, pretending nothing had changed. But something had. The silence between them was now heavier than ever, not cold, but charged, electric, full of everything they had left unsaid. And then came that day. A charity gala in Istanbul, hosted by a foundation they had both supported for years. Neither of them knew the other would attend. Neither planned it. And yet, destiny works in mysterious ways. The hall was glowing, chandeliers, music, laughter, the usual facade of the celebrity world. Ken arrived quietly, dressed in black, no entourage, no statement. He just wanted to blend in, maybe escape the noise for a few hours. He walked through the crowd, shaking hands, smiling politely. But when he turned toward the stage, his breath caught. She was there. Demet stood near the edge of the hall, her gown shimmering like moonlight against the marble floor. She wasn't looking at him, not yet, but somehow he knew she had already felt his presence. It was that same invisible thread that had always pulled them toward each other, even when they tried to cut it. For a moment, the entire room faded. The voices dimmed. The laughter blurred. It was just the two of them again, suspended in that unbearable silence that once defined their entire love story. Demet finally turned. Their eyes met. The same eyes that had once memorized every line of each other's souls. The same eyes that had seen tears, laughter, fear, and love. Now locked again, full of questions neither could ask out loud. He wanted to move, to go to her, to say everything. But the weight of years, of pride, of cameras watching, kept him frozen. Demet looked down first. She smiled politely at someone beside her, pretending to listen, but her hands were trembling. Minutes later, fate intervened again. A mutual friend, unaware of the tension, waved Ken over. "You two should talk. It's been ages." And suddenly, there was no escape. They stood face to face. Not on a film set, not behind a script, not pretending to be someone else, just them. "Hi," she said softly. His voice cracked. "Hi." For a few seconds, neither spoke. The crowd around them disappeared. The music softened. Everything else ceased to exist. Demet's voice trembled slightly. "So. Istanbul confession, huh?" Ken exhaled a short, nervous laugh. "I guess I wasn't very subtle." "You never were," she said, and for the first time in years, her eyes softened. He stepped a little closer. "I didn't mean for it to go public. But maybe, it needed to." She looked at him, really looked at him, and for a heartbeat, she saw not the celebrity, not the man the world judged, but the one who used to wait for her after long shooting days with coffee in hand, saying nothing, just smiling. "You don't get to fight for me with headlines, Can," she whispered. "I know," he said. But I'll fight in silence too, if that's what it takes. Something in her expression flickered, a mix of pain and longing. Before either could say more, cameras turned their way. The flashes began. The illusion of privacy shattered instantly. Demet straightened her posture, forced a small smile, and walked away gracefully, leaving behind the faint scent of her perfume, the same one he remembered from the days when everything made sense. Ken stood there, motionless, as the reporters began whispering. They spoke. They're back together. But the truth was quieter than the noise around them. She had spoken only one sentence, yet it was enough to reignite 1,000 unsaid ones. The night after the gala, Istanbul slept, but two hearts didn't. Demet sat by her window, the lights of the city flickering below like restless stars. The dress was gone, the makeup washed away, but the echo of his voice lingered. I'll fight in silence too, if that's what it takes. Those words had been looping in her mind for hours. She took a deep breath, clutching the thin silver necklace she always wore, a gift from him years ago. She had tried to put it away so many times, but it always found its way back around her neck, as if refusing to be forgotten. Down by the Bosphorus, on the opposite side of the city, Ken stood on his balcony, a cigarette burning slowly between his fingers, not because he wanted it, but because he needed something to do with his hands. The night wind carried the same silence they had shared at the gala, that unspoken electricity that had once made them inseparable. He didn't know what she was thinking. He didn't know if she would ever call. But for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel hopeless. He felt alive. Because she had looked at him, really looked at him. Not with anger. Not with distance. But with the fragile warmth of someone who still cared, despite everything. He picked up his phone again. Her contact was still there, Demet dizzy. He smiled faintly. Still the same emoji, he murmured. This time, he didn't type. He didn't overthink. He just hit record on a voice message. His voice was quiet, steady, sincere. I don't know if you'll ever listen to this. Maybe you'll delete it, maybe you won't. But I needed you to know, I wasn't trying to create headlines. I was trying to tell the truth, finally. You were never just a chapter, Demet. You were the story. He paused, took a breath. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I'll be here, not to chase the past, but to fight for the future. Even if that means waiting in silence. Always. He didn't press send. He just stared at the recording, thumb hovering over the screen, heart pounding. Then he whispered, when she's ready, and locked the phone. Across the city, Demet looked out at the same night sky. The same stars, the same wind, the same unspoken connection. And as if the universe had planned it, her phone lit up with a new notification. It wasn't the message, not yet. It was an old photo memory, the two of them laughing between takes, eyes sparkling, hands almost touching. The caption beneath it read, 5 years ago today. Her lips trembled into a soft, bittersweet smile. Fate, it seemed, had its own cruel sense of humor. She whispered, 5 years, and it still feels like yesterday. Then, with a shaky breath, she opened her contacts, scrolled down, and stopped at his name. She didn't press call. She didn't write anything. But for the first time in years, she didn't delete it either. Outside, Istanbul began to wake. The first call to prayer echoed through the dawn, mixing with the sound of seagulls and the city's heartbeat. And somewhere between that quiet chaos, two souls, broken but not defeated, made a silent promise neither would ever say aloud. That maybe love doesn't end. It just waits for courage to return. The camera of life slowly pulled back, the city glowing beneath the rising sun, the world still whispering their names, and somewhere between it all, a love that refused to fade. A woman who had loved deeply. A man who had finally spoken the truth. And a story that wasn't over, just waiting for its next chapter.